very excited for this next conversation, and just really in awe of the brilliance in this sector of our people and the resilience. And this is going to be another really great conversation featuring some brilliant folks who are working in this sector every day and working at the intersection of Black media and AI. I am thrilled that we have an amazing moderator who is going to be leading this discussion with some brilliant folks. Our very own Center for Community Media Executive Director, Mikhail Simmons. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to him to run the session.
Thank you very much, Cheryl. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending today. And thank you for staying on. I know this is the third session of the day. I'd like to thank the panelists who were here before. And we're going to get into it. So today's session, or the session I have the honor of moderating today, is called Leveraging AI for Impact. In this panel, we'll explore how media professionals are harnessing the power of artificial intelligence. And just to take a step back, this new version of artificial intelligence, or the latest version, as all AI, is part of computer science. As part of computer science, which means it's a tool, it has many different aspects. It has the LLMs, large language models, which you've heard a lot about, but it also has aspects when it comes to learning and also visual as well. Today, we're really going to focus on its usefulness. Yes, we could talk about legalities, ethics, bias, revenue, ownership, things of that nature. We may get into that, and CCM may have more sessions onto that. But today we're really going to focus on how the Black press is using AI today. We have three great people on our panel. We have Paris Brown, Associate Editor of Baltimore Times. She said she uses AI as an assistant. It's the, and I quote, AI is the assistant I prayed for. She mentioned earlier this year or last year. She's fearless about it, and she's going to talk about how she is using it in her everyday work. We also have Vania Andre, who's a media executive. She's a board chair and the chief technology officer at the Haitian Times. She tweeted or X'd. What is the verb for Twitter now? Is it X? Anyway, we digress. I digress. She said, I envision using AI to build out the basic structure of the story and then utilizing reporters' time to focus on rounding out the piece with the current and historical context and quotes from real people to add color and nuance that would otherwise be missed. She mentioned this last June. That's Vania Andre. And lastly, we have Lafayette Barnes. He's third generation, or he's part of the family. He's third generation publisher from the Washington Post, and he is running The Bridge. He wowed an NPA audience last year when he showed off the AI generative cover. So today they're going to be talking about their work. They're going to spend about 7 minutes each talking about how they used it. And then we're going to open it up for questions. Just as the other panels, please add all of your questions into the chat, and I will be the vessel to your questions. And if you want to follow up, I could probably call on you. All right, so to kick us off, I would like Paris Brown. Can you start? Baltimore Times.
Sure. So I'm going to start my clock, but I am coming to you from the Howard University. Okay, you see the seal, HU Black Press Archives. This is amazing. It is Black Press, and I'm only sharing this. They enshrined Zora Neale Hurston, who's the co-founder of The Hilltop. So I had to share that with you. I'm in the space. Right behind me, you see the boxes for the Baltimore Times that is archived here at Moreland Spain Guard. So I had to say that anyway. So I know I've spent 26 seconds. You let me know. Should I share my screen or my presentation? Let me know. Help us out.
All right, no problem. I think, Cheryl, are you taking the lead on the slides?
I can.
Okay, if you want to go ahead and show, can you show my slides or do you want me to do it?
You can do it. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. So now you're gonna have to give me another minute.
Yeah, we'll give you some time back.
Okay, so so that means okay, hold on. I'm gonna get it up and then we are going. I literally had it ready. But you know, when you get it ready, then you can't actually do anything because it takes over the whole screen. Okay, so just like it just did. Okay, so if I don't, are you able to do it? Yes or no?
Yeah, let me do it.
I got it. I got it.
Okay.
Okay, can you see it now?
Yes, we can.
See it
Yes,
now?
we can.
Okay, great. So I spent 1 minute. Got me on a stop clock. So how we use AI. So I'm going to share this with you. I have to make you laugh. So we're a newsroom of 3.5 people. Okay, so you can imagine. So I needed that prayer answered. So we're doing a lot of innovative things. So you're right. I do use AI as an assistant late at night when I need things grammar checked. And I don't know if you ever used AI and if you asked it specifically to grammar check, it will give you all these recommendations on, word usage. And then I use it to spell check. So I take it, drop it in there, and I know when it comes out, I can send it. The other thing I use it for is email transmittals. So I've done a letter and I want to transmit the letter. And I say, okay, specify these 3 points. I take the letter, I put it in, I say, transmit this email, develop a transmittal email and emphasize these 3 points as part of transmittal. It spits it out in 30 seconds. It would have taken me 10, 15 minutes, saves a lot of time. One of my absolute favorites is creating project timelines. So I had this wonderful project, BT Stories. So part of it was to reach a younger generation, and they be the content providers. And so the gentleman couldn't do it. So I thought, okay, how do we implement? And I saw that it was a great idea, but he needed some direction. So I took this project and said, over 6 months, I want you to spread the initiation of this project. And then I said, I want indicators, target goals, and monitoring. Then I went further and said, I'm going to have 4 people working on this. Delegate the responsibilities and the impact for each person in their role. So that was a lot of fun to be able to do something that would have taken me 2 weeks. The other thing we use it for is brainstorm and content assistance. So we did content development celebrating Black cyclists. And I have print and digital, but I wanted to use technology. So we used AI, AR, and VR experience. So the name Petals of Resilience, a triumph through time, grit, and triumph actually came from the brainstorming from AI. So we put in things like racism, pushing against difficulty and things like that. And it was the name of our exhibition. So we do use it for that initial type of work, you say. And one of the things I always want to emphasize, it is the human with the AI as support, right? Because we have an editorial team that does original writing. The other thing we used it for as part of an interactive experience is to create the background and the finish line for the Maryland Cyclists, who was our partner so we were the media partner for Maryland Cyclists. And one of the coveted positions is the cover of the Baltimore Times. So we took that and then took legends, and then you had the opportunity to be on the cover because we created the finish line using AI. And so you could take a group shot or you could pose on our $6,000 bike that was borrowed, and you can actually be in the picture, and we would then turn and text that to you. So you were part of the storytelling, you were part of the history, you're part of telling the story. And then the AI part, the VR part, you were riding on a bike with them. It was really cool. If anybody wants to know about it, you reach out. The other thing we use it for is to create images that we just wouldn't could you really find this kind of image anywhere? So we use DALL-E. We're very transparent about it because it will say image created. We do credit DALL-E. We have a challenge, I don't know, with other media, with rights to photos, right? Someone will give us a story, we'll put it up, and I kid you not, by Friday morning, the site is scrubbed and we will get, I'm suing you, right? And it happens often. We've had to settle anywhere from $500 to $1,500 from like $6,000, right? So we do use it to create images. This year, we use it to create the cover of Martin Luther King. So we use it to create the cover. We're excited about it because we knew that this cover, no one would come after us. And then we did something interesting. We said MLK in Baltimore. And so the picture on the right it actually gave us a Baltimore backdrop. So if you know Baltimore, you would be familiar with that. So we did use it this year to create the image. The other thing that we're doing now, we've created a product called Zing AI, using our trusted brand and I would say our importance in the health space. And then what we did was we used AI to create summaries and to Zing. And what we do with the Zing, so one, we're finding more people are listening to the summary, and we used Black voices. So we use Black voices and we call them inclusive voices. So you can zing and pick your avatar actually to read to you, because we found that there were not avatars that represented who we are to tell our story. So it's us reading to us. And it is a product we created. You can go online and you can get on the waiting list for Zing when it rolls out. It's testing beta on our website. And I think that is it. I think I did it within my 7 minutes.
Yep, 7 minutes on the dot. Minus slides. So thank you very much. I love the fact that you brought up you use it for brainstorming content, and I really like the idea of, even though you're creating AI generated images, you are transparent about where those images are coming from. Next up, we have Vania Andre.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Mikhail. It's really great to just be able to be a part of this conversation. I want to start off by saying, for us at the Haitian Times, we've always been a very small operation. Paris, when you say you're a newsroom of 3, when I started with the Haitian Times, I want to say 10 years ago, we were a newsroom of 2, myself and my business partner, Gary. We've since grown a bit, but the resources that we need are always challenging. So AI and automation has always been something that we've leaned heavily on, just to help fill those resources gaps that we haven't been able to fund physically. When I think about how we use AI in our newsroom, it really is holistically and falls into 2 main buckets. So the first one, a lot of editorial use cases, some of things that, we're still experimenting on. But I would say the number one thing at the moment that we use AI for on the editorial side is similar to what Paris mentioned, kind of like a first-line copy editor. One of the pieces of work that we do in preparation for that, however, is kind of creating a de facto Haitian Times manual, where we're able to tell, whether it's ChatGPT, there's Claude.ai, obviously there's Gemini, now that we've been playing around a bit more, and saying, here's an example of what a typical Haitian Times standard story looks like. Here's an example of what a news brief looks like. Here's an example of what a Q&A looks like. So before we even put that prompt in, we're able to make sure that it learns our cadence, implement some parts of our style guide. So for example, because our readership is in the US and in Haiti, there's specific spellings that we adhere to that, let's say, is not used casually linguistically. So I just want to preface that, we give it a lot of information beforehand to make sure that whatever it's spitting back out to us requires as little edit and manipulation as possible. So again, first line of that is really, copy editing stories, asking it to edit for clarity, for AP style, and to make sure that it sounds like a Haitian Times article. The other avenue in which we're experimenting with AI on the editorial side is really thinking through how we can take second materials. So for example, press releases, short reports, statements, and telling it, here, take this and transform it into a standard story, 300 to 500 words. That we've had some success with. However, like Mikhail had mentioned earlier, a big part of that, it's not just taking out what it spits out from the press release and reworking it, but also making sure that we add another level of human touch to it by being able to identify, okay, this would be stronger if we're just able to get, a quote from an expert, even if it's a secondhand quote that was already published in another outlet, to include that. Sorry, one second, just look at my notes. The other way that we have been experimenting with it, that it's still kind of touch and go, there is a project or initiative through Google. I can't remember the name right now, but essentially what they're working on is being able to allow publishers and users to feed images, and then they use AI technology to be able to kind of understand what that image is and then give you automatic captions and cut lines. That has been something that has been challenging for us in the past, especially with our photo needs. We do have freelancers in Haiti that have that do work with us and submit stories, submit photos, but because of the language barrier and again, lack of time, lack of resources, we often find ourselves scrambling to just make sure that we have accurate captions, accurate cut lines. So that is another avenue that really looking into, because if we're able to have use that technology just to create these automatic cut lines, it would really save us a lot of manual work and just kind of like a back and forth, especially if there are connectivity issues that are happening in Haiti. Staying along the photo space, we also do utilize AI for photo generation, not as often as I thought that we would be, but there have been particular instances when we're thinking through about stories that have very sensitive topics, whether they include children, because we cover Haiti on the ground and the diaspora. As you can imagine, a lot of the stories at times are quite graphic, have violence involved in it. So one, getting those images aren't always readily available or easy for us or even affordable. And then secondly, sometimes when we do get those images, we have to have a talk internally within our newsroom trying to figure out what is appropriate to show. How can we use AI to either to kind of blur this image, enhance it in some other way, to either block people's identities, anything like that. And we use Canva for that. Canva has been a really amazing resource for us in that lane. And then just really quick to pivot, when I think of like business and audience use cases, I would say the biggest use case for us on the audience side is really taking our existing stories and feeding that into AI and telling it to draft 30 tweets for us, you know, that are 175 characters with enough space to include an image, really for copy language generation. And then I'll kind of finish this. I think I'm pushing on my 7-minute mark. But on the business side, it really is thinking through language and just how we can just have really clear-cut copy, marketing, promo language to help bring people back to the site.
All right, thank you very much, Vania. I like the fact you're really talking about how it's augmenting the work you're doing. And I really want to highlight how you said about, you know, you went into this expecting to use the image generation a lot more. And you're like, okay, no, we actually don't. But in these sensitive issues, especially since you're reporting internationally, you're reporting primarily in 2 countries, like this is where it really comes in clutch in that sense. All right, thank you very much, Vania. Lafayette, take us home.
All right. Can everybody hear me? All right. So thank you for featuring me on this panel. In our newsroom, we are the Washington Informer Bridge. Earlier, you said the Washington Post. I want to clarify that it's the Washington Informer newspaper, which is DC's only Black-owned newspaper. We've been around for 60 years. We started with my grandfather, Dr. Calvin W. Rolark, and it's run by my mother, Denise Rolark Barnes now. My mother gave me the opportunity maybe 7 years ago to start my own paper.
Sorry, Lafayette, hold on.
You gotta talk.
Okay. Right. Thank you very much.
Yep.
I
No problem. All good, all good. So my mother gave me the opportunity about 7 years ago to start my own paper, which is called The Bridge. We basically, we're a paper that reaches the younger audience here in DC, so millennials and younger. So I would say ages like 44 and down, which typically, you know, are more comfortable with digital media. And so we're able to test more, you know, digital media, innovative technology. So in our newsroom, like I said, we're a small newsroom, a subsection of the Washington Informer, which is also a small business. So typically, it's been just me as the only employee of the Bridge. You know, we've been able to take in editors who you know, on a short, you know, on a part-time basis, and writers on a contract basis. But typically, I'm responsible for most of the business operation. We've been that, and so with the invention or the you know, the integration of artificial intelligence, we've been able to expand, you know, my capacity and also to work and cover a lot of things that, you know, I typically wasn't able to cover because of the capacity issues. And so I would say that we've used it, as you mentioned in my intro, for the cover of our newspaper last year in January. That was the first time I was able to use Midjourney, which I find to be a very excellent AI image generation tool. I was able to use Midjourney to create a cover that reflected the mood and feeling of young Black people in Washington, D.C. I would actually like to show it. If I can, I'll share my screen.
Oh, please do.
All right, hopefully you all can see this.
We can see it clearly.
Okay. So so this is the cover that I created. I'm also proficient in Photoshop and many other image generation tools, image editing tools. So I was able to, speak to Midjourney, go through a couple different iterations and ended up with this image, which is a group of young Black people sort of, creating their own version of Washington, D.C., drawing the Capitol themselves. This was, this image you see right here is what we posted on Instagram, and that's a photo of the cover. A young lady, a young digital artist here in DC created that logo, the bridge logo. Our logo is typically what you see here at the bottom left, that black bridge. So we try to, keep it fresh with different iterations of our logo each time to, keep the customer, to keep the edition as like a collectible edition. We try to make each one different. And then you can see how we use that image as merch for an event, which is our Bridge Creative Salon, which is where we invite young creatives here in DC to come talk about, business and just, create community around that. And then this is our flyer for the salon. So we use that image again. So we were able to use this image, over and over again. And then here are some other images that I created with that same technology. You can see this was an option for a t-shirt that we didn't use. And this is the t-shirt that we did use. So Midjourney has been very, effective. It was very effective for us, but I can also relate to Vania in that, like, we typically don't use it, for stories. Like, this is more for marketing materials. Second, publishing, like I said, our capacity is small. So if I can get my hands on a press release and use ChatGPT to do some research, and then do my own research online, reading multiple articles, and I can collaborate that in a Google Doc and create like a sort of, research document about a particular story, in a matter of minutes, maybe like 15 minutes, I can just pull a couple articles, use ChatGPT, use the press release, compile it all together, put it in ChatGPT and give it the, the word count or, whatever specifications or that I'm looking for. It can spit out a story fairly quickly, in maybe 1 minute or so. I can, read that story, go back through it and, keep iterating it to the point where I like it. I'll put that back in Google Docs, and I'll use another AI program called Grammarly, which is a editing program. They have a premium, which has an AI editor involved. So that will like reword paragraphs or sentences, and give me better options that would achieve, higher visibility online via SEO or, other metrics. So I do that a lot. Typically I wake up, my workflow might be like each morning, every day I'll be on Instagram and I'll send all these things that are happening within my city and my community to my page, or people will send me things. I will compile that all in one sort of, what could I say, like mailbox or whatnot. And then in the morning, I'll wake up like really early, maybe like 5, 6 in the morning, and just find like the top 4 or 5 that I think would be relevant during that day. And I'll just go through that ChatGPT and, online research and Google Docs with Grammarly process. And I can have like 4 or 5 stories done before, people are getting ready for their day. And then I can schedule those using other AI programs to go out throughout the day on social media. Because we are a small capacity publication, we only use Instagram. We're not using Twitter but Instagram does publish to Facebook. So, through that, we are able to access Facebook, but typically we don't do Facebook, directly. I also use AI for business models and structure, guidance. Also use it for industry comparisons. So like if I look at our competitors, I want to know, some history or some information about what their strategies are. I can input those businesses into like ChatGPT and tell it to, give me a breakdown of like how this company has performed over time and, potential things, based on what they've done in the past, what they may do in the future. And sort of, that can help me create ideas for what I want to do with my company. And also when it comes to pitches and partnerships, so like any company that may, show interest, I might use ChatGPT to say, let's use Coca-Cola, for example. I say, hey, what initiatives has Coca-Cola sponsored that would be, Black initiatives in the past? It'll tell me, obviously there's some nuance on whether that information is 100% correct, but it gives me a great idea. Then I can, go deeper into that idea. I can say, okay, based on the 5 answers you gave me examples of how they could, I can put my company profile in and give it ideas, tell it to spit out ideas based on my company profile and my market and our audience. And it'll, go deeper and deeper into those ideas. And then, within like 30, 45 minutes, I can have, 5 or 6 ideas for Coca-Cola and what I should be pitching to them. So AI has been a very productive tool for us and for me, and it's allowed me to bring on, like I said, we're a business of 1, but this year we were actually able to bring on 2 more people, a digital marketing manager and a business development specialist, who are helping us, as we create these pitches, they're able to go and sell them and, and expand our capabilities digitally to work with these companies. So it's been very productive for me. I use AI pretty much all day, every day.
Thank you very much, Lafayette, Vania, and Paris. This is great. I'm hearing some overall themes here. You all are using AI for large things and smaller things, right? I'm also hearing that the fact that you know how to do all of this work already kind of makes your life easier, or it makes it more useful for you. You're not learning how to build a thing. You know how to do it already. It helps you with your first draft quickly. It helps you spin up information in a way that's more consumable, or create something that's much easier to hand off to someone else. Lafayette, I heard you talking about basically doing a business analysis and like that Venn diagram of where do you and that business intersect and how do you integrate with that. I also like the fact that each of you all are from a small newsroom, right? Usually we think about resources, we think about time. Just quickly, I'm going to go around to the other people on the panel. Where would you think they should start or test AI? Like they heard about this, they weren't sure where they could jump into the pool. What advice would you give? And I'd like to start with Paris.
So if you haven't tried it, you should. So for example, and let's be really clear that you need the human element to it. And like Vania said, you have to make sure that so you create your profile, right? So that it's always picking up your profile. So you could set up a profile so that whatever you generate is consistent. If you haven't tried it, go in there and said, oh gosh, create a sales manual for me. And you would be surprised what it will give you. And then you take what you can use. You will have to touch it generally 20% of the time, right? Because it has what it has, but it may not be specific. Sometimes it can, like I said, if you put in a profile, I would say test it. Tell it to do a proposal for you. Tell it do a funding proposal for. I'd asked it to do it, but I put all of the information in. What I love about it, I'll do a brain dump, and then it just organizes all my thoughts. But you have to tell it. So I need you to develop a timeline or develop a presentation. But you give it the direction, you give it all the information, and then it'll organize it for you. I would say just try it. You will be amazed. I have a colleague I think he's on here. He tried it and loves it. Try it, be fearless about it. We're small newsrooms. I just could not afford to hire an assistant. I literally could not. And I thought, okay, how do we do this? And that's busy work. And, assign it your busy work. That's what I would say.
Thank you, Paris. Vania?
I second and echo all of that. You cannot make a mistake. It's just experimenting. The 2 tips that I would give folks is 1, pay very close attention to your prompts. How you ask something, it's very literal. So you have to be as detailed as possible. So for example, if I was to take a press release and tell it, rewrite this in Haitian Times for Haitian Times tone using, AP style, but incorporating some New York style, New York Times inflections in it. It may just give me literally saying the New York Times, blah, 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 and then give me the rest of the press release. So the way that you construct your prompts is very important. So try to be as detailed as possible. The second thing I would say is to experiment with the same prompt on different models. So for example, you'll be able to see which one of these services are better for natural language generation for stories. There are others that are better for data analysis. There are others that are better for the type of like technical, less creative writing. In my experience, ChatGPT for the most part is still number one as far as the ability to write very clear and succinctly and to be able to incorporate the tone that we give it direction for. I would say Claude.ai has been really helpful when thinking of any type of copy that you need that needs a little bit more creative touch to it. Has a lot more superfluous language. I think you know what I'm trying to say. And then with Gemini, Bard, I forget what they're calling it now. That one it's less prone to spitting out full natural language type of articles. So for example, I've asked it to produce a article for me, and it gave me bullet points instead. It gave me the direction of how it should go. And then I had to add a second prompt saying, please now, make this 300 to 500 words and in this type of format. So I would say, Bard, it's really good with data analysis, kind of more for business use cases, thinking through and brainstorming these kind of things. And then ChatGPT is still number one on our end for natural language article type of content writing.
All right, thank you, Vania. Lafayette, any advice for small newsroom leader who wants to figure out where to at least try and enter this space?
And certainly, I can echo what Paris was saying, Ms. Brown, about just try it. Go on. I like register for ChatGPT. I use the latest model, which is ChatGPT 4. It's like $20 a month. It's more than worth it. You pay $20 probably for parking at some time. So, just pay for it and, just start talking, just ask some questions. Hey, like, I work in this industry, what do you think is happening in this industry? Just start asking whatever questions on the top of your head, and you'll, and just as long as you stay curious and continue to explore, I think you'll find a reason for it to work for you. I would also say that there's some easy ones like ChatGPT and like Midjourney. These other things are a little bit more like you have to interact with it, where, some of these, something like Grammarly, it just sort of works in the background of what you're working on. So you don't necessarily need to ask it any questions. And then there are other things I've used. So one is called Notta, N-O-T-T-A. And so if I'm doing, let's say I do an audio interview, I'm interviewing someone on a recorder, I can take that recording and upload it to Notta, and it will do this transcript of that interview. And then I can take that transcript, put it in ChatGPT, say, summarize this interview. And then, I'm just breaking it down and down and down until, it's actually something more, something that I feel like, interacting with. Being that we're a smaller newsroom, I might not have the time to listen to multiple hour interviews and try to, write a 500-word story about it. So if I can break it down, more tools I can use to break it down, the better. Also, if you are on Instagram or any social media, there's a woman I follow. Her name is Nikki Saunders, and her IG is This Is Nikki S, Nickys. She does a great job at exploring all the, emerging AI tools, and she gives a great review. I'm sure she has a YouTube channel also. So, go on YouTube, search, best, AI tools for journalism, and just get familiar with what's happening. I've also, lastly, I've also done my best to try to go to discussions, group discussions about AI. I've been able to hear the CEO of OpenAI, which is the producer of ChatGPT. I've been able to see him speak twice. So I really am interested in what's happening in the AI industry. So, like I said, curiosity is what will help you. And I know a lot of people are worried about the, some of the, I'm sorry, I see it in the questions. People are asking about, security issues or, just like issues, like, is this going to take over or, are there problems with, IP and all these other things? And I think that, those are serious, things to think about. But as we explore, I mean, you would be fooling yourself to think that it's not worth exploring. It's never going away. This is just, we're just in the baby phase of AI. So, I would just say, stay curious.
All right, thank you very much. And Lafayette, you gave me a good segue to a different grouping of questions I want to ask, and I want to put this around ethics. I just saw a question in the chat. Where are the ethical boundaries? Is that on the docket for discussion today? Yes, it is. So I'd like to put that to the group. How are you thinking about ethics of this work?
Would you like me to start, or you want to go in order?
So you can start ahead.
Okay, well, I think that there are certainly ethical issues. I mean, we saw what's going on with some of the larger papers and, how these, large language models are, co-opting or, using their media to learn. And I think that that's, something that for the lawyers in the room, that they probably know more about. Like, I think that we have to be careful. Like I said, fact checking and using your human abilities as with AI is the way to go. In my opinion, you should never use AI and just think like you don't have to check it, so there will be some issues. And, like I said, we're still in the beginning of this technology. Well, we're still in the baby phase of this technology. So we'll see what happens going forward. I just think that, the best, if you're a journalist, you know that there are certain rules to journalism. And so continue to use those rules, continue to check your sources and, double check your spelling and, all of those things and give credit where credit is due. And we'll see how, the ethical issues grow. I think also as minority-owned papers, like we've seen it before AI, we've seen companies, sort of co-opt the word Black press, like a company who's not necessarily a Black-owned company will, create a small portion of their office space and say, here, these are our Black reporters, and we're going to create a Black newspaper or a Black media company inside of a majority-owned company. And so that is going to be even more pressing when it comes to AI, because, I mean, there was like a record company that was using the voice of a Black rapper and created an AI of him and started putting out music without his permission, and also only paid him a one-time fee to participate. And so, that went viral, and a lot of people, showed their, showed that they had an issue with that. So they ended up stopping, this AI artist. But I mean, we're going to see more of that. So certainly, just do your research, figure out where this stuff is coming from. Do your best to give credit and keep learning.
I like to open it. Oh, Vania, jump in. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Just a quick addition. So for us, it's a very evolving conversation about how we think about AI, but particularly levels of transparency and when it's used in our reporting. So let's say, for example, right, when you have an AI generated image, that's very clear cut. The caption, the credit is that this was created using DALL, using Midjourney, using one of these generations. Then the next level, right? It's like, okay, if you use an AI model to fully write a piece where, there was very little editing that was done because it wasn't needed. And that is just purely written, and that gets that credit that this was an AI generated piece. Then, to be honest, we have questions, within our newsroom ourselves, when does that transparency no longer go to that level where we have to do that, in the sense of you get something back from ChatGPT it's not necessarily usable in the way that you could just publish it as is. So now you get to a part where you're kind of piecing things together, right? So there's some stuff that maybe you got from ChatGPT. There's some stuff that you've gotten a reporter to be able to do some type of secondhand reporting, or even sometimes firsthand reporting to be able to incorporate it and flesh out that article. And then there are times that you're, let's say, using one of these models to, in our case, you know, we've used it to read through lawsuits, court documents, you know, and summarize it. So it's like when it starts getting into the helping the reporting process, I think a question and a conversation that's going to evolve is like, what merits that AI disclaimer, you know, when it's not something that's just a pure product of a prompt that was produced. The other thing that I think is a glaring obvious is that, you know, we're a room full of journalists, editors, media folks here. There's always the ethical question about whether or not this is going to take a job, whether or not this is going to hurt the industry more than help it. And the way that I think about it really, it's that it supercharges us to be able to do what we wouldn't have been able to. We as Black media have been in this space for a very long time. When I think of the media space, you have legacy outlets that have been around for 50 plus to 100 something years. You have a lot of these new media brands that were started, you know, in the 2010s when everyone was saying that journalism was dying, when it was just the platform that was changing. And those outlets really aren't around as much. They've kind of folded and closed. And then you have small publishers, micro publishers, niche publishers, family-owned Black press that are still here. So when thinking about the ethics of AI, I urge people not to look at it as something that would hurt the industry, but it's something that our industry, specifically as Black publishers, need to be able to grow and be able to have the same opportunity to catch up with some of the other outlets that get the funding that from the beginning.
Thank you, Vania. And what I hear from larger newsrooms is, well, what I hear from people who work with larger institutions overall is that the smallest companies and the smallest newsrooms are the most nimble. You know, you can try this and you can try this, and you have enough trust with your community to say this worked or this didn't work, but that transparency and conversation is your advantage. Paris, I saw you wanted to jump in.
I didn't have much to add to that. Our editorial, I'm not as involved with it, but we do have our writers and they do the stories. So we have a lot of original content that gets scraped and other people use it. So I don't know how much the editorial team has experimented with that, but I do know we do assign and we do write our own stories. Mm-hmm.
And
really in that kind of administrative support, I would have to have that conversation with them to find out if they use it. But I do know we assign writers and we still old school and we interview them.
Thank you. And there was another question up front, up top, so I don't want to miss it because it's on the same theme, which is but isn't AI using other images that exist on the internet? Wouldn't that still lead to potential legal issues with those images? Anyone on the panel who may have input on that?
Well, when we used it, and one of the things I can tell you that it does have a bias, so we actually have to tell it to give us a Black person when we do the image, right? So if you just ask for the image, except for MLK, it would, and we've probably used it, I think about 3 or 4 times. We're not using it a lot, but obviously with the ones with you see the older doctors with the younger generations. And also there's an issue of showing children, right? When you don't have a release, right? So I think you spoke to that, Vania, when you have to get that. So we find that sometimes it'll produce the image that we want that we could not have found anywhere else. And we know it's being generated, so we're not concerned about it being a copyright. Now, if you grab something from the internet and then you use it, apparently they embed codes so they can follow that picture right to your website. That's why they know if you're using it. So for us, AI has helped us out if we have an article that we do not have a picture, it helps us to generate it. And then you can regenerate it if it doesn't give you what you want the first time. You can reprompt it.
I have a follow-up question for you, and just to pivot a little bit, how has AI impacted your ad revenue? And I'm guessing in this case, it could be directly or indirectly. Yes.
Don't know if it has impacted our ad revenue. No, I that's actually something that I have not used it for. So I don't think I can answer that question, at least this year.
Right. The Lafayette, Vania, do you want to jump in on that question?
I think in an indirect way that we're thinking about how it can not necessarily ad revenue only, but digital revenue. Again, and it goes back to copy, promo language. So one of the things that we introduced last year were quizzes. The idea with the quizzes on one side definitely to get more engagement and have our readers stay on the site longer, so that way we can boost page time and add that as a talking point in our media kit when we're having conversations with advertisers. But the AI comes into it. So for example, all of the images that are used for the quizzes are AI generated. And these are very soft quizzes. So for example, tied to Haitian culture, to how well do you know your Haitian history? How well do you know the Haitian voodoo spirits, things of that sort. So we use AI heavily for all of those graphics, and then also to actually help create these quizzes. So it's not a very direct link, but the idea is that we have these suite of quizzes. We will be selling ads against them, but the production part of it is integrated into AI, with the end goal has always been not only audience engagement, but being able to create more products to be able to sell to advertisers against that space. So not a clear cut. I can imagine some version of this in the future, in the next coming months for us, where we are either using AI or automation somehow, a mixture of both, to allow advertisers to be able to place orders, directly on the site. And then kind of have it in a holding pattern where we can agree they can upload their artwork and stuff. But I don't know if that's even necessarily AI. I feel like that technology exists already at a much higher price point, but at least with AI automation, we can find a bit more cost-effective solutions for us and like a roundabout way to do the same thing.
And Vania,
Yeah,
you bring up a great point. So Vania, you bring up a great point, right? Like right now, AI is cost effective to do or hire for a lot of these roles, and with I'm hearing engagement and production in many ways too. You're doing this through one tool in and of itself. Sorry, Lafayette, I cut you off.
No problem. Yeah, I was just going to say that our increased story production, for example, right now I'm looking at our Instagram content interaction over the past 30 days. It's up 68%. So, that type of, us having more impact on social media or on our website via the AI tools that have helped us increase production would potentially increase our ad revenue.
Thank you, Lafayette. Oh, Vania, sorry, I cut you off. You were going to say something.
Oh, no, I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. So last question to the entire panel. So this is early in this technology, or at least this phase of the technology. It can get better. You all spoke about, structuring these tools so that they're useful to you, whether it be tone, whether it be the amount of production and things of that nature. How do you see AI or AI products reshaping the landscape of Black media, or specifically Black journalism, 5 years from now?
Yeah, I have a comment. So I'm sorry. I would just say that I think that it's going to make content production easier overall, like sort of like how, video killed the radio and then internet killed the video. It's just like it's a continuation of the evolution of media. And so I think as, it's what do they call it? Whatever, basically like more people will be able to start their own platform. I mean, it's much easier. You can use AI to create a website. You can use AI to write stories. You can, there's there are going to be so many AI tools that, as our newsroom is, as a writer of one, basically, minus the contractors that we work with. I mean, we will be able to manage a large production of media with a small team. And so that will only increase going forward, as well as the tools to increase our, viewability on as far as our ads go, and track our ads and find, more niche audiences with our ads. So I think that, as media companies, especially smaller media companies, start to use more AI, we'll be able to become more competitive. I do think that we need to start getting into the creation of our own AIs. I really was impressed by what Ms. Brown was saying about her, her use of or they're creating their own AI in-house, and I look forward to seeing that when it comes out, because that's what we need to start doing. I mean, we need to start owning the IP. We're entering all this information into the database, but we're getting data. I mean, we're getting content out of it, but we need to start gathering data. So hopefully you'll see not only news companies innovate as far as like content goes, but you'll see them innovate technologically. I hope that's what I hope to see. AI affect the Black media industry.
So I'm going to echo what Lafayette said in terms of supporting our capacity, and I think we should explore our own technology, right? Because that's what we found. There weren't diverse voices. But what I think is really important is making sure that we're protecting our brand, right? Because people will be able to go out and do a lot of things. That's why I'm so glad we do our own content. Yes, it'll allow us to extend our capacity, but I think that as you do that, make sure that brand is still strong there, right? Because so many things can be created and generated. So I think overall it will help. I think it's important that you examine your own tech stack and make sure that it creates and keeps that niche publication that why you were created, right? And so I think that that's really important. Our brand value will go up, right? I think, but certainly look at what works for you. Like Lafayette, this is what I'm using for the Washington Informer. This is what I use for the Baltimore Times, because it reinforces our brand, but allows us also to build capacity.
Not really much more to add to that. I echo and agree 100% with both of their comments, and really just bring it home that it will give us all a competitive edge. The democratization, I think, of technology as a whole, the startup cost to create anything has been drastically decreased over the last 10 to 20 years. And that is what we need to be able to envision and manifest all of the great ideas, whether it's in publishing and media and music and whatever it is, that we can bring it forth and be able to compete with our counterparts.
Thank you, everyone. I'm hearing great advice here. Start small, think about how you structuring your prompts, ask questions of it, try different tools. Don't be afraid of it. I'll add that our superpower is our humanity here. We are closest to our communities. We're closest to our work. There's no... The advantage of, quite frankly, mainstream media not covering our communities is that even with AI, they still can't do what we do because we are there and language is evolving and we know what that looks like. So leaning into this, we should, as Lafayette said, figure out ways to own our own IP and take ownership of the technology, because this is effectively code. But taking advantage of it and using it for our power is what's needed. I'd like to say thank you very much. Thank you to our panelists. We will be sharing some of the tools and links mentioned in today's chat. And I'd like to hand it back off to Cheryl as we go to the last panel, or the last networking session, sorry.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Mikhail, and thank you to the panelists again for those amazing insights. I'm immensely grateful for you all for sharing your time and expertise with us.